Good afternoon. My name is Bill Sigler, and like you, I'm a student of bushcraft. What I'd like to share with you today is the solution that I've come up with to try and solve some of the problems that are inherent in cooking with alcohol stoves. Now, just as an example, this is a stove that I made. And for those of you who don't know what an alcohol stove is basically it's something that you make or buy that you use flammable alcohol to cook your meals with. Some of the problems and some of the benefits. The big benefit is that alcohol stoves weigh almost nothing. The second benefit is if you make them yourself, they can be extremely inexpensive. And the third benefit is that you can use them in quite a few areas that don't allow open fires for cooking. Some of the disadvantages are that by nature you must use and carry a flammable liquid with you, alcohol of course being the best solution. Secondly, you have a problem that just by its size it's not very stable. So if you're going to cook on top of it, you must have a very flat and level surface. And thirdly, by its design again, it's designed to generate a lot of heat. So I believe I've solved two of those three major problems. The first one of having to carry a flammable liquid with you, there's no way around it unless you get your buddy to carry it for you. But if you're alone, you're on your own. So stay with me and I'll get you some close-ups. Oh, by the way, the other biggest advantage that with the setup that I have is that it costs next to nothing. So stay with me and I'll show you what I came up with. Thank you. Now, the reason why I say that the setup costs virtually nothing, there are three major components and they're all made out of tin cans. The only thing that you really have to pay for, but you can probably scrounge them, are the bolts and nuts and washers for the base. The way the system is put together is this. There's a support cage, there's a base, and there's a windscreen. The support cage fits on the base and pivots on the one screw where the head of the other one helps to lock it down. So it goes on, pivots, and it locks in place. Now, if you can see, right down in the middle is where it sets, and this is very solid. The alcohol stove itself fits into the support cage, and then the windscreen goes over top. Okay, so let's take a look a little bit at the way that the two major components are constructed. The two major problems with using alcohol stoves are that you're working with a flammable liquid, number one, and you're working with heat. Okay? The other one that's not quite so important, but you have to take into consideration, is that by using a small alcohol stove, it's not very stable. The way I got around it is this, is I constructed my support cage to actually pivot and lock onto the base. And I did that by the use of the two screws. Now you can see this one here is used just as a pivot, and this one here, I have a nut and the bolt is separated just enough so that it'll go through the bottom of the can and lock in place. And it works just like this. You push down a little bit, rotate, and it locks in place. Now I have holes drilled all through here for some very good reasons. Number one, I have to provide airflow. Number two, I have to provide a way for the flames to escape. Because if you notice, when the stove is down inside, there's two rows of holes, one low and one a little bit higher. The holes that are higher are just above the center line for where the gas jets are on the stove. That allows the air to come in through the base, which I have holes drilled all around, come up through the holes that are just on the outside, the holes that are just on the outside of the support cage, and those are there so that there's airflow between the support cage and the windscreen. This allows for a very useful function. This lets the air come in through the bottom, go up and escape up vertically, but also it helps direct the flames more towards what you want to cook on. Now, if that unit is a Guyot Design backpacker bottle, it sits in there quite nicely, and the flames will come up right along the sides. Of course, you do have to remove the cord in the top. But as you can see, this is very stable. Now, the other thing that I did with the base, you can see that there's holes that allow the air to come in through the sides, but at strategic points around the base, at 3 points, I drilled holes so that I could take and drive stakes in to help secure it to the ground. That way, if I wanted to, if I'm on some slightly uneven ground, I can prop a rock under one side and go ahead and drive a stake in to make sure that it doesn't shift. With this type of setup, you can put quite a lot of weight on it and it remains stable. Because believe me, it's no fun when one of these spills over and it has flammable alcohol in it. Luckily, like all good campers, you clear out everything in your cook area and all you have is dirt, and it's not a big deal. But you want to prevent that from happening. The way the setup works is this, very simply. The support cage is designed so that the air comes up, the air goes through the bottom, it combusts, and even if this is sealed off here, it can come out the flame holes here. And with the windscreen on the outside, that makes the flames go straight up and along what you're cooking, if you're boiling water in a bottle, or along the outside of the pan if you're frying. The way it's constructed very simply again is this. The alcohol stove goes in, the wind guard goes around, and your bottle goes in. Now, this cage was initially designed for something different than the Guyot Design backpack. My initial cook set was a Swedish multi-use cook set with an aluminum bottle. And it just so happened that my original support cage was pretty much the exact diameter of the bottle, so that when I slid it in, it supported it very nicely, and the bottle itself just rests right on top of the stove. But if you can see it here, there is maybe about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch between the sides of the bottle and the outside of the windscreen. So as the flames escape, they have a tendency to come right up the side of the bottle. Well, I hope this has been helpful for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And as always, I'd like to thank you for your time, and we'll see you out there in the woods. Thanks.